The strange sky over the farm. Jake lived in a quiet village far from the big cities. He was a simple man. He woke up early, fed his animals, and worked on his farm all day. His hands were strong, and his back was broad. People in the village liked him. He was kind, honest, and never caused trouble. One evening, just before sunset, Jake was chopping wood behind his small wooden house. The sky was orange, and birds were flying back to their nests. Everything looked peaceful. But then, something strange happened. The sky turned dark, even though the sun had not fully set. Clouds gathered fast, and a loud humming sound came from above. Jake looked up. His eyes widened. Bright lights flashed in the sky, blue and red, spinning in circles like fire. "What in the world?" Jake said, dropping his axe. The lights moved fast, and then there was a loud boom. The ground shook under his feet. Birds screamed and flew away. A strong wind blew across the farm. Animals cried in fear. Something had crashed into the forest near Jake's land. Smoke rose from behind the trees. Jake grabbed his old axe again. "This ain't normal," he whispered. He walked towards the forest. The smoke was thick, and the air smelled like burnt metal. His heart beat fast, but he kept moving. He had to find out what just fell from the sky. As he stepped deeper into the forest, he heard a strange sound, like metal breaking and something heavy moving. Then he saw it. A ship, shiny and broken, was lying in a small clearing. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was big, black, and glowing with red lines. Steam came out from its sides. Something had crashed hard. This was no plane. This was not from Earth. Jake took a step back. "An alien ship," he whispered. Then, suddenly, something moved. From behind the ship, a tall figure appeared. It was a woman, but not human. She wore strange silver armor. Her skin was blue, her eyes glowing green. She looked strong, very strong. Her face was sharp, and her expression was cold. She looked at Jake like he was an enemy. "You," she shouted in a deep voice. "You will not take me." Jake raised his hands. "Wait, I'm not here to fight. I just..." Too late. The alien woman jumped at him with amazing speed. She had a long metal spear in her hand. Jake barely moved aside as the spear hit the ground beside him. Dirt flew everywhere. "Okay, you want to fight," Jake muttered. She attacked again and again. Jake blocked her with his axe, dodging left and right. He had never fought like this before. She was fast, skilled, and strong. But Jake had something else, pure, raw strength from years of farm work. She swung her spear toward his head. He ducked. She tried to stab his chest. He stepped back. Then he saw a weak spot in her armor, just under her arm. Jake took a deep breath and swung his axe with all his power. Crack! The axe hit the weak spot. Sparks flew. The alien woman fell to her knees. She dropped her spear and looked at Jake with wide eyes. "How are you this strong?" she asked, gasping. Jake stood still, breathing hard. "I'm just a farmer," he said. Her eyes slowly closed, and she fell forward, unconscious. Jake looked at her, confused. "What do I do now?" He didn't want to leave her there. So, carefully, he picked her up. She was heavy, but Jake was strong. He carried her back through the forest, across the fields, and into his barn. He laid her down on some hay. She didn't move. Jake sat beside her, watching her face. "Who are you?" he asked. "Why did you come here?" Hours passed. Night came. Jake stayed near the barn, keeping an eye on her. Then her eyes opened. They glowed in the dark. She looked around quickly, then saw Jake sitting there. "You?" she said slowly. "You beat me." Jake nodded. Didn't mean to. Her face changed. It wasn't angry anymore. It was curious. She stared at him like he was something strange, something powerful. Jake didn't know what to say. He just gave her a blanket and said, "You can rest. You're safe here." She didn't reply, but she didn't attack again either. The stars shined above the quiet farm, and in that moment, the alien warrior and the human farmer sat in silence, both trying to understand what just happened. A warrior's pride and a farmer's strength. The wind howled outside the barn. A storm was coming. Jake sat on an old wooden stool beside the sleeping alien. The barn smelled like hay and oil. The woman still hadn't moved much since he brought her in. Her armor was cracked, and a small blue light blinked on the side of her helmet. Jake couldn't sleep. He kept staring at her. She wasn't human, but she wasn't just some monster either. She had a face. She had pain. She had eyes that told stories. The night passed slowly. At sunrise, she moved. Jake saw her fingers twitch. Her eyes opened again, slowly, glowing faint green. She sat up fast. Jake stood and raised his hands. "Hey, easy. I didn't hurt you more." The alien woman looked around quickly, confused. She saw hay, wooden walls, and animals tied nearby. She was in some kind of primitive shelter. "Where am I?" she asked, voice low and sharp. "My barn," Jake said. "You crashed. I found you. You passed out. I brought you here." She touched her side and winced. The armor there was cracked. "You struck me," she growled. "You broke my defense suit." Jake crossed his arms. "You tried to stab me first." She stood up slowly. Her legs shook a little, but she didn't fall. She stood tall, proud like a soldier. She looked down at Jake. He was shorter than her, but she remembered his strength. "You're no normal male," she said. "What kind of species are you?" Jake laughed lightly. "I'm just human. Name's Jake." "And you are?" She paused. Her green eyes studied him. "Zyra. Commander Zyra of the Arkan Empire." Jake nodded. "Well, Commander, you're not on your planet anymore." Zyra turned her head. "Where is my ship?" "Still in the woods," Jake replied. "Smoking. Some parts exploded." Zyra's jaw tightened. She looked down at her broken armor and weapons. Her pride was wounded more than her body. "I must report," she said. "I must return. My mission is not complete." Jake leaned against the wall. "Well, you'll have to wait. You're lucky to be alive. You crashed hard, and your power suit's busted." Zyra glared at him. "I do not wait. I conquer." Jake shrugged. "Not this time." Zyra stepped toward him. Her eyes glowed brighter. "I am not weak," she said. "You were lucky. One hit. That was all." Jake stared back calm. One hit was enough. Zyra clenched her fists. She couldn't believe it. She had fought monsters from black planets, rebels with poison blades, and robotic beasts from frozen moons. But here, on this quiet, green planet, she was beaten by a man who grew crops and raised chickens. It hurt her pride. Suddenly, her knees shook again. She staggered. Jake caught her before she fell. "Still not ready," he said. Zyra tried to push him away, but her energy was low. "Let me help," Jake said. "I don't need your help. You needed it last night." Zyra went quiet. Jake helped her sit back down. For a moment, there was silence between them, only the sounds of cows and wind outside. Jake brought her water in a tin cup. Zyra looked at it, then at him. "I don't drink from primitive containers." Jake smiled. "Well, we don't have golden cups here, Princess." She narrowed her eyes. "Commander." Jake chuckled. "Right. Commander." Zyra drank. She hated to admit it, but the water felt good. Her body was still healing. Her ship had no backup. No soldiers were coming. She was alone. And yet, this human, this strong, quiet man, did not fear her. He treated her like a guest, or maybe a stray dog. Zyra didn't know which was worse. Later that day, Jake took her outside. She walked slowly but didn't complain. The village kids saw her from a distance and ran away screaming. Adults peeked from windows. Jake called out, "It's okay. She's not here to hurt anyone." Zira didn't like being stared at like an animal in a cage. Back on her planet, she was feared, respected, the leader. But here, just a strange, tall woman with blue skin. Jake showed her around his farm. Chickens, cows, crops, simple things. "You work the land yourself?" she asked. "Every day," Jake said. "No machines. Just me, my hands, and my axe." Zira looked at his arms. The muscles were real, not artificial, not boosted by tech, just raw power from hard work. She remembered the moment he struck her in battle, the way her suit cracked, the way she fell. "You are strong," she said quietly. Jake looked at her. "You too." Zira met his eyes. "I want a rematch. When I recover." Jake smiled. "Deal. But next time, no spear. No axe either. Just you and me." She nodded. "All right," Jake said. "Let's see who wins then." That night, Zira sat in the barn, sharpening a broken part of her spear. Jake brought her a plate of warm food. She looked at it. "What is this?" "Beef stew. My mom's recipe." Zira sniffed it, then took a bite. Her eyes widened just a little. "Not bad," she said. Jake laughed. "That's high praise from a space commander." Zira looked up at him. "You are different from what I was taught," she said. "Humans were supposed to be weak." Jake sat beside her. "Maybe you just met the wrong one." She looked at him longer this time. She didn't say anything, but a new thought entered her mind. This man, this farmer, was dangerous in a way she had never seen before. Not because of weapons or armor, because of what he was inside. And that scared her more than any enemy. The rematch under the moonlight. The moon was full. It shined bright over the quiet fields. Jake stood in the open space behind his barn. He had taken off his shirt. His body was strong, built by years of farm work. His feet were bare. His hands were ready. Across from him stood Zira. She wore only the base layer of her armor now. Her wounds were healing. Her eyes were sharp again. Her pride was back. Tonight was the rematch. "I want no tricks," she said. "No weapons. No traps." Jake nodded. "Just strength." She stepped closer. "And this time, I won't go easy." Jake smiled. "You didn't last time." The wind blew softly between them. Crickets sang. A few cows in the distance made soft noises, but everything else was quiet. They stood still, watching each other, waiting. Then, like lightning, Zira moved. She rushed toward Jake with alien speed. Her feet barely touched the ground. Her fist aimed straight for his chest. Jake dodged. Her punch hit air. She spun around and kicked, but Jake caught her leg. He pushed, and she flew back, landing in the dirt. Zira rolled and stood again. Her face was serious. "You've trained," she said. "No," Jake replied. "I've worked." Zira charged again. This time, she got close. Her fists moved fast. Jake blocked 1, 2, 3 hits, but the fourth hit his shoulder hard. He grunted but didn't fall. He grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. She twisted free, flipped backward, and landed on her feet. They circled each other now, breathing heavy, eyes locked. Zira felt something she hadn't felt in years. Excitement. She had trained with the best, fought deadly warriors across galaxies. But this was raw, real. No tech, no tricks, just power. She lunged again. They clashed. Fist to arm, shoulder to shoulder. She kicked. He blocked. He grabbed her waist and threw her down, but she twisted and kicked him in the chest. Jake stumbled but didn't fall. Zira stood again, chest rising and falling. "You are not normal," she said. Jake wiped dirt from his mouth. "Neither are you." Then, Zira smiled. just a little, and charged again. This time, they didn't fight like enemies. They moved like rivals, respect in every hit, fire in every move. Jake caught her arm and slammed her down. She laughed. "Good move," she said. He offered his hand. She took it. He pulled her up, and suddenly their faces were close. Too close. For a moment, everything stopped. No sound, no breath, just eyes meeting eyes. Zara looked away first. She stepped back. "This is not over," she said, voice low. Jake nodded. Didn't think it was. Later that night, they sat under the stars. Jake had brought a jug of cold water and 2 cups. Zara drank deeply. "Your world is strange." Jake chuckled. "You mean slow." "No, simple, but strong." He looked at her. "You ever rest on your planet?" She shook her head. "No time. No permission. Soldiers don't rest." Jake leaned back. "Maybe that's the problem." Zara looked at the sky. Her green eyes reflected the stars. "I used to think strength was only about power, victory, control." Jake listened. "But you are strong without control. You live free. You protect, not rule." Jake said nothing. He just watched her. Zara spoke again, softer this time. "My people think humans are weak, but maybe we were wrong." Jake handed her more water. "Maybe." She turned to him. "You scare me." Jake raised an eyebrow. "I don't mean to. That's why it scares me." They sat in silence for a while. Then Zara stood. "I must return to my ship tomorrow," she said. "I must send a signal." Jake stood too. "You'll bring others." She paused. "I don't know yet." Jake looked into her eyes. "If they come to hurt Earth, I'll stop them." Zara didn't smile, but she didn't disagree. "You would," she said. Next morning, Zara walked toward the forest. Jake followed. They reached the crash site. The ship still smoked slightly. It was damaged badly, but one communication pod still blinked. Zara touched the console. Her fingers moved quickly over the alien symbols. A blue light glowed. "Are you calling them?" Jake asked. Zara looked at him. "I'm thinking." He stepped closer. "You don't have to." Zara looked up. Her face was hard to read. "I came here with orders. To scan Earth. To test its strength. To report weakness." Jake nodded slowly. "And what will you report now?" he asked. Zara looked at him for a long time. Then, she turned off the pod. "I need more time." Jake said nothing. He just put a hand on her shoulder. Zara didn't move away. That night, Zara sat on the barn roof, legs crossed, eyes to the stars. Jake climbed up and sat beside her. "Will they miss you?" he asked. Zara nodded. "Eventually." "Will they come?" "They always do." Jake looked at the sky. "Then we'll be ready." Zara turned to him. "We?" Jake smiled. "You and me." Zara didn't smile back, but something in her eyes changed. "You still think you beat me?" she asked. Jake leaned back. "Every time you smile, I win." Zara snorted. "Then don't get used to winning." Jake chuckled. The stars washed over them. 2 warriors from 2 worlds. One built by war. One built by the Earth. And between them, something new was growing. Something not even the stars could predict. "They are coming for her." The early morning fog rolled across the fields like a silent river. Jake was already awake, feeding the animals. He moved like a man with a purpose, slow, steady, and calm. His thoughts, however, were not calm. Last night, Zara had shut down her ship's signal. But what if it was already too late? He couldn't stop thinking about her words. "They always come." Inside the barn, Zara sat on a pile of hay, eyes closed, her hands resting on her knees. She was meditating, or maybe listening. Suddenly, Her eyes snapped open. She stood up quickly and walked outside. Jake saw her come out, looking around, alert. "What is it?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Her glowing eyes scanned the sky. Then she spoke in a low voice. "They found me." Jake frowned. "You didn't send a signal." "I didn't have to," she said. "My ship did." Jake looked toward the forest. "How soon?" Zyra turned to him. "Maybe hours. Maybe minutes." Far away, beyond Earth's atmosphere, a black ship hovered, silent and deadly. Inside were 3 Arkan elite scouts. They wore dark armor with red symbols. They had no names, only ranks. One of them spoke. Commander Zyra's beacon was active, now silent. Possibly captured, possibly fallen. The leader nodded. "Land. Search. If she is alive, return her. And if she resists, terminate." Back on the farm, Jake packed a bag quickly. Food, tools, his father's old shotgun. "You really think they'll land here?" he asked. "They always come to the last known location," Zyra said. She checked her armor, still damaged but usable. Her spear was half broken, but still deadly. Jake handed her a bag of tools. "We can hide. Forests deep." Zyra shook her head. "They will scan everything. Forest, mountains, caves." Jake looked her in the eye. "Then we don't hide." She paused. "You mean fight?" Jake nodded. "You're not alone this time." Zyra stared at him for a long moment. "You would fight your own death for me." Jake's eyes were calm. "I'm not just fighting for you. I'm fighting for Earth." Hours later, the sky broke open with a loud crack. A ship entered the atmosphere, black and fast. It hovered just above the forest before disappearing behind the trees. Zyra's breath caught. "They're here." Jake looked up. "Then let's give them a welcome." In the woods, Jake and Zyra moved like shadows. He knew every tree, every rock. She followed silently, her eyes scanning, her body ready. They saw the ship. It had landed in a clearing. The metal hull steamed. The door opened. 3 Arkan warriors stepped out. Jake whispered, "They don't look friendly." "They aren't," Zyra said. The lead soldier spoke into a wrist device. "Commander Zyra, respond." Silence. "Commander Zyra, surrender and return with us." Still silence. Zyra stepped out from behind the trees. "I'm here." The soldiers turned fast, weapons ready. The lead one spoke. "Commander, your mission is over. Come now." Zyra stood tall. "I am not returning." "That is not your choice." Zyra raised her spear. "It is now." The soldiers raised their weapons. Jake stepped out beside her. "Guess we're doing this." The lead soldier looked at Jake. "A human. You fight beside her." Jake nodded. "You'll wish I didn't." The fight began. Zyra ran forward like a flash. Her spear clashed with theirs. Metal against metal. Sparks flew. The sound of battle filled the air. Jake didn't wait. He charged one of the soldiers, tackling him into a tree. The alien tried to stab him, but Jake grabbed his arm and slammed it against a rock. Cry cake. Zyra fought 2 at once, flipping, blocking, striking. But she was tired. Her armor was broken, her energy low. Jake saw one soldier aiming a plasma blade at her back. He yelled, "Zyra." She turned, but too slow. Jake ran and threw himself between them. The blade hit his side. He screamed and fell to the ground. Zyra's eyes turned wild. She stabbed the attacker in the chest, deep. The soldier fell, lifeless. Zyra ran to Jake. Blood came from his side. "Why did you do that?" she cried. Jake groaned. "Because you're my friend." She looked at him, eyes wide, breathing hard. Then she stood up, anger in her blood. She turned to the last soldier. "You came for me," she said coldly, "but now I come for you." She moved like a storm. Every hit was fast and deadly. The soldier tried to block, but Zira was stronger, fiercer, full of rage. With one final strike, she broke his weapon and his will. He fell to the ground, unconscious. After the battle, Zira dropped her weapon and ran to Jake. He was still breathing, but weak. She held him close. "You're not dying. Not today." Jake smiled weakly. "You still owe me a rematch." Zira touched his face gently. "You win. Again." Hours later, Jake opened his eyes. He was in his bed. Bandage. Safe. Zira sat beside him. "You saved me," she said. He smiled. "You saved me first." Zira leaned closer. "I sent the ship away," she said. "I told them I was dead." Jake blinked. "Why?" She looked into his eyes. "Because I want to stay. The government knows." 3 black helicopters circled the sky. They weren't here for crops or cows. They were here for something else. Jake sat on his front porch, bandage still wrapped around his side. The fight in the forest had nearly killed him. But he was alive, thanks to Zira. She stood behind the house, watching the sky. Her sharp eyes tracked every move, every noise. "They're coming," she said. Jake nodded. "Yeah, I can feel it." She turned to him. "They know something." Jake didn't ask how. He didn't have to. After the alien ship crash, the lights in the sky, and now a massive energy spike from the forest, someone, somewhere, was watching. Earlier that day, in a dark room, deep under a military base, screens flashed with heat signatures and radar data. One satellite feed showed Jake's farm. Another showed the wreckage site, recently disturbed. A man in a black suit stood in front of the screens. Something crashed out there. Something. Not ours. An agent walked over. And the strange part, sir, local farmers reported nothing. No panic. Just silence. The man frowned. "Send a team." Quietly. Back on the farm, the sound of a truck engine came up the dusty road. Jake stepped off the porch, his shotgun in hand. Zira stayed hidden, her armor dimmed. A black SUV stopped in front of the house. 2 men in suits got out. Clean haircuts. Dark sunglasses. No smiles. Jake stayed calm. "Can I help you?" The taller man spoke first. "Sir, we're investigating unusual activity in this area." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Cows ain't been unusual lately." The second man smiled slightly. "Mind if we look around?" Jake didn't move. "Got a warrant." Silence. The first man leaned closer. "Something fell from the sky. We tracked it. The signal ended here. If you're hiding something, now's your chance to come clean." Jake met his eyes. "I've got chickens, corn, an old barn. That's all you'll find here." The agents exchanged a look. Then they stepped back. But Jake knew they weren't leaving for good. That night, Zira sat in the barn, checking her armor again. The cracks were worse now. She didn't have many tools left to fix it. Jake limped in slowly. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he said. "Just sore." She looked at him carefully. "They will return. Stronger. More questions. More men." Jake sat beside her. "I figured." She looked down. "I don't want to bring danger to your people." "You didn't," Jake said. "They came on their own." Zira looked at him again, her voice softer. "You could give me up. Say nothing. Walk away." Jake gave a small laugh. "And lose the only alien who likes my cooking." Zira smiled for real this time. A small one, but real. Jake looked at her. "Why did you really stay?" She didn't answer right away. Then finally she said, "Because here, I feel like myself." Jake nodded. "You're not just a weapon anymore." "No," she said. "I'm more." They sat in silence for a while. Then Jake said, "We need a plan, in case they come back with soldiers." Zira stood. We'll move the ship, hide it deeper, change the wreck site. Jake agreed. We can bury the signal core, make it look old. Zira's eyes glowed. We'll erase the signs. The next day, Zira and Jake worked all morning. They used old farming tools, covered the alien metal with dirt, logs, stones. Zira removed the signal core from her ship and crushed it. We only get one chance, she said. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. Let's make it count. But far away, a military truck rolled through the hills. Inside were 10 soldiers, quiet, focused, fully armed. They weren't looking for a crash anymore. They were hunting someone. Later that evening, Jake's dog barked wildly. Zira stepped out of the barn, her head turned sharply toward the trees. Boots, voices, guns. Jake came out of the house. They're here. Zira's eyes glowed brighter. How many? Jake listened. Too many. Hide, she said. I'm not hiding. Zira moved fast. She pushed him toward the barn. You're hurt. You'll slow me down. Jake grabbed her wrist. I don't leave my people behind. Zira stared at him. You don't understand, she said. If they take me, they'll take my body, my blood, my mind. They'll use me. Jake's jaw tightened. Not while I'm alive. Gunfire broke the silence. Flashbangs lit up the farm. Soldiers moved in like shadows, silent, trained, precise. Jake and Zira ran toward the forest. But soldiers were already there. They were surrounded. Zira grabbed Jake's hand and pulled him behind a hill. We split up, she said. No. You stay, she said. I fight. You'll die. She looked at him. Then let me die free. She stepped forward. But suddenly, a loud boom shook the ground. One of the hidden energy cores Jake and Zira buried had exploded, set off by a soldier stepping on it. Smoke, fire, chaos. Zira looked back at Jake. Run. But Jake didn't run. He picked up a fallen soldier's stun gun and fired into the smoke. Zira jumped into the air and flipped behind another soldier, knocking him down. Together, they fought like one. Alien and human. Side by side. 30 minutes later. Silence. Smoke rose from the battlefield. Most soldiers had fled or were unconscious. Zira stood over the final man, the leader in black. Who sent you? She demanded. The man coughed. We don't answer to aliens. Zira raised her spear. Jake put a hand on her shoulder. We're not them. We're better. Zira paused, then lowered her weapon. They let the man crawl away. Back at the farm, Jake poured 2 glasses of water. Zira sat beside him, bruised and tired. I think we're out of luck, Jake said. No more hiding. Zira agreed. They'll keep coming. Jake looked at her. Then maybe we stop running. She turned to him. You mean, fight? No, he said. We show them something stronger than fear. Zira asked, what's stronger? Jake smiled. Hope. The alien among us. The sun rose over the village like it always did, but something had changed. People were whispering, talking, afraid. They had heard the gunshots last night, seen lights in the woods, smelled smoke in the wind. But what truly shocked them was what Jake brought back. Jake walked into town with Zira beside him. She didn't hide this time. She wore her armor, cracked but shining. Her skin was blue. Her eyes glowed. Children stared. Old men stepped back. A woman dropped her basket of apples. Nobody moved. Jake stood tall. This is Zira, he said. She saved my life. She saved all of us. Zira stood silent, watching their faces. Then someone spoke. That thing's an alien. She's dangerous. Why bring it here? Jake raised his voice. She's not a thing. She's a soldier, a protector. But the crowd didn't calm. A boy threw a rock. It hit Zura's shoulder and bounced off her armor. She didn't flinch. She didn't attack. She just looked at the boy and lowered her head. Jake stepped forward, angry. That's enough. The boy's mother pulled him back. Then the village elder stepped out, an old woman with white hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Zura. You are not from this world. Zura nodded once. No, I am not. Then why are you here? Zura's voice was steady. I was sent to judge your planet, but I chose to stay, because I saw strength in someone you call simple. She looked at Jake. Then she added, and now, I want to protect what I once planned to destroy. The old woman studied her face for a long time. Then she said, we judge by actions, not by skin. She stepped forward and offered her hand. Zura hesitated, then gently took it. The villagers watched in silence. Then one by one, the fear began to fade. Later that day, Zura sat outside the small-town school. She watched the children laugh and run. Jake sat beside her, drinking cold lemonade. You handled that well, he said. Zura looked at the sky. I didn't want to. Jake smiled. But you did. Zura turned to him. Your people fear what they don't understand. Jake nodded. So do yours. Zura thought for a moment. Then maybe you and I are the bridge. Jake looked at her. You think we can make peace? She nodded. With the right strength, yes. Jake chuckled. Funny. I always thought strength was about fighting. Zura looked at him with soft eyes. No, it's about standing between danger and what you love. Jake didn't reply, but something in his heart moved. That night, Zura helped rebuild a broken shed behind the school. She used her strength to lift heavy beams, fix roofs, and repair walls in minutes. The villagers watched with wide eyes. Children followed her like a hero. An old man gave her a fresh-baked pie. She didn't know what to do with it. Jake laughed. You eat it. She tried. Her face twitched. Too sweet, she said. Jake almost dropped his plate laughing. That night, she smiled more than ever before. But far away, a dark signal reached the stars. In the cold black of space, a large warship received the message. On board was a new figure, dressed in royal red armor. Tall, angry. Her voice echoed. Commander Zura has betrayed the Empire. Another voice replied. Then she must be punished. The ship turned toward Earth. Back on the farm, Jake walked Zura to the barn. The stars above were quiet. I've never seen you this happy, he said. Zura nodded. I've never been free. Jake stepped closer. You're not just an alien anymore. She looked at him. And you're not just a farmer. They stood close now. Jake gently reached for her hand. She let him. Their fingers locked, human and alien. Different, but together. Zura whispered, I wish this could last forever. Jake's smile faded a little. Something tells me it won't. The next morning, a strange sound echoed across the sky. Like thunder, but deeper, louder. Jake and Zura rushed outside. A large shadow moved across the clouds. Then it appeared. A massive alien warship, blood red, covered in spikes. It hovered above the village like a silent god. Zura's face went pale. It's her, she said. Who? Jake asked. My sister. The last stand. The red warship hovered above the village like a hungry shadow. Its engines rumbled, shaking the ground. Trees bent in the strong wind. The sky had turned dark. The sun was gone, covered by the beast in the clouds. People screamed. Children cried. Cows ran loose across fields. And Jake stood on his porch, looking up. Zura was beside him, frozen. Jake turned to her. Is it really her? Zura nodded slowly. Her voice shook. My sister, General Vera. She commands the royal fleet. Jake looked back at the sky. And what does she want? Zara looked down. Me. Far above. Inside the red warship, General Vera stood tall and cold. Her armor was sharp, her face emotionless. She stared at Earth through a glowing screen. Planet 273. Primitive. Fragile. Unprotected. Another officer bowed. Shall we destroy it, General? Vera didn't blink. No, not yet. Bring my sister to me. Back on Earth. A red beam shot down from the warship. It hit the center of the village, creating a tall, glowing pillar of energy. Then, they arrived. 12 alien soldiers stepped from the beam. Tall, fast, ready to kill. And behind them walked Vera herself. The villagers ran and hid. Some locked doors. Others froze in fear. Zara stepped forward. Jake grabbed her arm. You don't have to face her. Zara looked at him, eyes hard. Yes, I do. Zara walked into the street. Vera stood at the edge of the town square, surrounded by her warriors. She looked at her sister with no emotion. Zara, she said calmly, you look soft. Zara didn't flinch. You came all this way for insults. I came for your return, Vera said. Alive or dead. Jake walked out behind Zara. Vera's eyes narrowed. A human. You joined them. Zara nodded. Yes. Vera stepped forward. You betrayed your empire. I found something stronger, Zara said. Vera laughed coldly. Stronger than war. Zara looked at Jake. Yes. Vera raised her hand. Take her. The alien soldiers moved forward. Fast. Jake stepped in front of Zara, holding only a metal pipe. Zara pushed him back. Let me handle this. She ran forward, fast and fearless. The first soldier swung a blade. Zara ducked and flipped over him, kicking his helmet off. The second fired a plasma gun. She rolled and threw a broken spear, striking him in the chest. The villagers watched from their windows. Then the elder woman stepped outside. And more followed. Farmers, children, mothers. They didn't have weapons, but they had numbers. And courage. Jake shouted, she fights for us, so we fight for her. The villagers roared. They threw rocks, tools, farming blades. One alien was hit in the head with a shovel. Another was pushed into a hay cart. Zara smiled. For once, she wasn't alone. But then, Vera moved. She stepped forward, fast as lightning. She knocked villagers aside like paper. She kicked Jake in the chest. He flew backward and crashed into a wooden fence. Zara turned. No. She ran at Vera. Sisters, face to face. The two clashed. Fist to fist. Blow for blow. Alien strength against alien strength. Zara blocked a heavy punch, countered with a knee to Vera's stomach. Vera spun and hit Zara across the face. Blood flew. Zara fell to her knees. Vera stood over her. You are weak. Zara spat blood. No, I'm free. Then, Vera raised her glowing blade. But before she could strike, a hand grabbed her arm. Jake. His shirt was torn, his face bleeding. But his grip was strong. He looked into Vera's cold eyes. You don't belong here. Vera pushed him back, but Jake didn't let go. Zara stood, gathering her last strength. She jumped forward and struck her sister in the chest with her full power. The armor cracked. Vera flew backward, landing hard. The red blade dropped. Zara stood over her. I don't follow your rules anymore. Vera looked up, weak. You would kill your own blood. Zara stared at her. Then she threw the blade away. No, she said. I'm better than you. Vera passed out. Later, the villagers gathered in the square. The alien soldiers had retreated. The red ship rose into the sky and disappeared. Zara had spared her sister's life, but warned her never to return. Jake stood beside her, bruised but proud. The elder stepped forward. "You protected us," she said. "You're one of us now." Zira bowed her head. "I am no longer Arkan," she said. "I am something new." Jake smiled. "You're home." That night, under a sky full of stars, Jake and Zira sat on the barn roof. The village below was peaceful again. Zira looked up. No war, no orders, just quiet. Jake nodded. "You earned it." She looked at him. "I never thought I'd find peace on a planet like this." Jake looked at her. "And I never thought I'd fall for someone from the stars." She smiled. Their hands met again. Different worlds, different lives, but the same heartbeat.